we now discuss how the sum and product of the roots of quadratic equation ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0 can be determined using the coefficients a, b, and c. Remember that the roots of quadratic equation can be determined using the quadratic formula. So x is equal to negative b, positive negative square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. From the quadratic formula, let x sub 1, so we have two roots here. We have x sub 1 and x sub 2. Paghihiwalayin natin yung positive and negative. So for x sub 1 is equal to negative b plus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. And x sub 2 is equal to negative b minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Be the roots of the quadratic equation. So let us now find the sum and the product of these roots. So pag sinabi nating sum, we're going to add the roots. So ito po yung derivation ng formula to find the sum of the roots of the quadratic equation. So we have x sub 1 plus x sub 2. I-add natin sila. X sub 1 plus x sub 2 is equal to negative b plus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. And then plus negative b minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So, yung kanilang denominator is 2a. Pagsasamahin na natin sila. So, we have x sub 1 plus x sub 2 is equal to negative b plus the square root of b squared minus 4ac minus b minus square root of b squared minus 4ac. So, negative b, combined like terms po tayo. Negative b tas negative b. So, we have negative 2b. Since positive and negative yun, magma-minus, makakancel na po yun. Yung may radical sign na dalawa. Mawawala na siya, makakancel. Divided by 2a. So, now we have x sub 1 plus x sub 2 is equal to negative b divided by 2a. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So, ano na lang yung matitira? X sub 1 plus x sub 2 is equal to negative b over a. So, the sum of the roots of quadratic equation is negative b over a. Ito na po yung magiging formula natin. X sub 1 plus x sub 2 is equal to negative b over a. Yan na yung magiging formula natin to find the sum of the roots of the quadratic equation. For the product of the roots of quadratic equation, so pag product, imumultiply naman natin yung two roots. So we have x sub 1 times x sub 2. So we know that x sub 1 is equal to negative b plus the square root of b squared, wala na yung squared niya, b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a times the x sub 2 is negative b minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So, magmumultiply po tayo dyan. So, now we have x sub 1 times x sub 2 is equal to negative b times negative b. Pag nagmultiply po tayo, mag-a-add po yung exponent. So, mag-a-add po tayo ng exponent. So, negative b times negative b. So, negative b square. Dalawa pong b yun. Minus. O, bakit siya minus? We have positive times negative, negative. And then, we have 2b square root of b squared minus 4ac. I-add ulit yung exponent. So, dalawa sila kaya square. Divided by, ganun din po yung denominator, dalawa, kaya 2a square, quantity square. So, now we have x sub 1 times x sub 2 is equal to negative b squared Pag negative b times negative b is positive b square. Minus, makakancel na po yung radical sign which is the square root and the exponent. Mawawala na siya. So, anong matitira? B squared plus 4ac. Bakit siya naging positive? Kasi, negative times negative is positive. Kaya, we have positive 4ac divided by 2 square is 4, then a square. So, we have 4a square. And then b squared minus b squared minus kasi siya, kaya mawawala na yan, 0 na yan. Ang matitira na lang, x of 1 times x of 2 is equal to 4ac divided by 4a squared. 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then, makakancel na yung isang a dun sa baba. Mawawala na yung a sa taas. Ang matitira na lang po is x of 1 times x of 2 is equal to c over a. So, this is the product of the roots of quadratic equation. Ito naman yung magiging formula natin for the product of the roots. X of 1 times x of 2 is equal to c over a. For activity number 5, this is my sum and this is my product. Who am I? Use the values of a, b, and c of each of the following quadratic equations in determining the sum and the product of its roots. Verify your answers by obtaining the roots of the equation. So, let's have examples. So, example number 1, x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equal to 0. So, we're going to find the sum, the product, and the roots of this equation. So, let's first find the sum. We need to identify the values of a, b, and c. So, for this equation, the value of a is 1, the value of b is positive 4, the value of c is positive 4. And then, to find the sum of this equation, the formula is negative b over a. Yung derivation po natin kanina ng formula ng sum of the roots. So, we have negative, our b is 4, and then our a is 1. So, negative 4 divided by 1 is negative 4. So, the sum of the roots of this equation is negative 4. And then, for the product naman, c divided by a. So, yung c natin dito sa equation na to is 4. And then, our a is 1. So, we have 4 divided by 1 is positive 4. The product of the roots naman dito sa equation na to is positive 4. So, ilalagay natin dito, sum is negative 4 and the product is positive 4. So, now let's find the roots para ma-verify natin kung tama ba yung sagot natin na sum of the roots is negative 4 and the product of the roots is positive 4. So, let's find the roots by using any methods of solving quadratic equation. So, pipili na naman po kayo kung anong gusto nyong methods of solving quadratic equation. You can use quadratic by using quadratic formula, factoring, and completing the square and extracting the square root. For this example, gagamit po ulit ako ng factoring. So, factors of x squared is x times x. And then, since positive yung last term, pareho dapat yung magiging sign dito or operation. And, tingnan nyo yung nasa gitnang term, kung positive siya, then parehong positive. Kung negative naman to, parehong negative. And then find the factors of positive 4. Factors of positive 4 are 2 times 2. So, pag inad nyo yan, magiging positive 4 siya. Yung, masisatisfy niya yung second term. And then, solve. Equate natin siya sa 0. So, we have x sub 1 is equal to negative 2. X sub 2 is equal to negative 2. So, the roots are negative 2 and negative 2. So, kung kukunin natin yung sum niya, x sub 1 plus x sub 2 is equal to negative 2 plus negative 2. Ang sagot po dyan ay negative 4. So, nasatisfy natin yung sum niya na negative 4. And then, kapag multiplication naman, kukunin natin yung product niya. X sub 1 times x sub 2 is equal to negative 2 times negative 2, that is positive 4. So, yung product niya is positive 4. At ang roots niya are negative 2 and negative 2. So, nasatisfy niya. Okay, next example. X squared plus 4x minus 12 is equal to 0. So, we're going to find the sum, product, and yung roots niya. So, first, identify the value of A, B, and C. The value of A is 1, value of B is positive 4, value of C is negative 12. Now, let's find the sum of the roots of this equation. So, using the formula, negative B over A. So, we have negative. Our B is positive 4. And then, our A is 1. Negative 4 divided by positive 1 is negative 4. So, the sum of the roots of this equation is negative 4. While the product of the roots, C over A. So, substitute natin. The value of C is negative 12 over the value of A is positive 1. Negative 12 divided by 1 is negative 12. So, the product is negative 12. So, let's check or let's verify if it is correct. Then, yung sum niya is negative 4 and the product niya is negative 2. Again, solve the equation by using any methods of solving quadratic equation. So, for this, factoring pa din po yung gagamitin ko. So, the factor of x squared is x times x. And then, titignan nyo po yung last term niya, negative po siya, negative. So, magiging positive tsaka negative yung sign dito sa two binomials. Positive tsaka negative. And then, find the factors of negative 12. So, dito, ang factors niya are negative 2 and positive 6. Positive 6 and negative 2. But, positive yung 6. Kasi, pag pinag-minus natin to, positive and negative 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. Follow mo yung sign niya, which is positive kasi yung second term. Kaya, positive dapat yung mas taas na value. And then, solve. So, we have x of 1 is equal to negative 6 and x of 2 is equal to positive 2. So, check nyo yung sum. X of 1 plus x of 2. X of 1 is negative 6 plus x of 2 is positive 2. So, negative tsaka positive, magma-minus. 6 minus 2 is 4. And then, follow nyo yung sign ng mas malaki. So, we have negative 4. So, correct. Yung sum niya, which is negative 4. And then, sa product naman niya, x of 1 times x of 2 is equal to negative 6 times positive 2. Negative 6 times positive 2 is negative 12. So, magkaiba sila ng sign kaya negative. So, the product is negative 12. Tama. So, the roots are negative 6 and positive 2. For activity number 6, here are the roots. Where is the trunk? Write the quadratic equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0 given the following roots. So, dito naman sa activity na to, given yung roots, kukunin naman or i-write natin yung equation, yung quadratic equation. So, kabaliktaran po to ng solving the quadratic equation. Kasi yung sa solving the quadratic equation, given yung quadratic equation, kukunin natin yung roots. Dito, baliktad. Roots ang given, kukunin natin yung quadratic equation. So, ang pagsasolve nito, kabaliktaran din naman ng solving quadratic equation. Kabaliktad. So, let's have examples. So, number 1, example, 3 and 7. So, yung roots, given roots niya are positive 3 and positive 7. So, first na gagawin ninyo, so, x is equal to 3 and x is equal to 7. And then, transpose nyo yung positive 3 magiging x, magiging negative na siya. 3 is equal to 0. Ganon din yung 7. So, x minus 7 is equal to 0. Then, factor. Combine nyo sila. X minus 3 times x minus 7 is equal to 0. So, for this, use FOIL method. I-multiply natin siya. So, we have first term, x times x is x squared. And then, outer term, x times negative 7 is negative 7x. And then, we have the inner term, negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And then, we have the last term, negative 3 times negative 7 is positive 21 is equal to 0. Then, combined like terms. So, we have x squared, negative, para silang negative. So, mag-a-add. Then, follow their sign, which is negative. 7 plus 3 is 10x. Copy nyo yung kanilang variable, yung same variable nila. Plus 21 is equal to 0. So, this is the answer. Yan na po yung quadratic equation. Another example, negative 2 and 5. So, we have x is equal to negative 2 and x is equal to positive 5. So, transpose again. So, we have x plus 2 is equal to 0. And x transpose minus 5 is equal to 0. Then combine x plus 2 times x minus 5 is equal to 0. Again, use FOIL method. So, dito na lang kasi hindi na ang kasya. So, x times x is x squared, yung first term. And then, we have the outer term. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. And then, we have the inner term. Positive 2 times x is positive 2x. And then we have the last term, negative 2. Positive 2 times negative 5 is negative 10 is equal to 0. Then, combined like terms. X squared, negative, tsaka positive, kaya magsusubtract. So, we have 3, followed the sign of the bigger number, which is negative. So, we have negative 3x. Copy the same variable. Then, we have negative 10 is equal to 0. So, this is the quadratic equation.